Okay, good.
Stop it.
And then, Amanda, do you have the camera today? This might be the most people of us at once, so we should try to get a group photo. Okay, I meant to do it last week. I don't think we're ever gonna get everyone in the same room, so we have to just keep trying and put them together.
Is pretty much everyone presenting today?
Pretty much.
Right, that's pretty much the whole team, right? That I saw on the slides, it looked like.
Yeah,
Is everyone going to be here? That's part of the.
not everyone.
Oh, they're
Garrett-
not, their
no,
slides are
Garrett.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, so, Andrew's here, Amy will be here,
Yeah,
Kathy's
so Amy,
here,
she's here.
Garrett's not here, so
Okay.
either I or
Okay.
he will do.
Amy said that she'd do it.
Yeah,
No,
she
Amy's
can
here.
do it.
I saw her.
She'll
do
to do
Garrett.
Garrett's side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And is Monica doing?
yes, where are her slides?
I didn't see him.
I don't see them either.
I did see a picture of her at one point. If it's gone, it got deleted.
I know, but she was supposed to give us slides for this.
She did.
I did see slides with her.
I mean, I did, I wrote everyone in as a template.
Right, and you put her picture and everything there.
Correct, because I
Oh,
copied the bio
okay.
slide and then I
Okay.
added blank
So
slides.
maybe she just.
And then
hasn't-
marketing probably got rid of it because they didn't.
So we can-
Yeah, do that second sheet there. See this? This is to do now. I see this lovely lady doing it. So this sheet, everybody. We want to know before we teach you anything, how you feel.
Do this sheet.
So the self-efficacy for managing chronic disease, if you could just answer that.
See, this is a-
Yeah. And this is.
She did.
See?
Hi.
Oh, that's good. that you
Does
feel
Bill
that.
have Parkinson's?
We're gonna do this with you.
Isn't it?
This.
I don't
No,
know.
that's what you should do. This is the one on top.
It's his last name. Osgood?
Morgan?
Isn't it him?
Oh, no, that's
No,
not.
that's
him.
Morgan.
That's not him.
That's
Yeah.
Morgan.
And
Sorry.
Morgan's name wasn't on the sheet.
Okay, good. We assumed he was coming. So now that's 14. Good. That's okay. All right, so
And then we're doing.
Yeah, if you could even, is she coming?
who's she?
Monica.
We're doing this.
Not
sheet.
today.
Oh, she's.
Hi, welcome.
Someone needs.
It's Charlie.
So you're starting, and if you follow taking this, you've got some tabs.
Do, fill out that top sheet there.
I'm gonna give you a little bit, because that table in the slide.
Charlie, can you hear me? Can you say hi so I can see if our sound is working? I know Charlie's on. We're excited to see you. Oh,
I need this.
Yeah, but just look at them so that they know to do the. I have a question.
yeah. Yes.
You talked about how you feel right now.
Right now, before you. Because we hope the numbers might change after this, but really, we're gonna test it every year. So in order for us to get grant money, they say, well, how do you know your progress is effective? And we say, well, we're gonna measure them in the beginning, we're gonna measure them every year and see if they improve, and we expect X improvement. So if it's already high after this, and then it stays high, fast, right?
Well, no, you don't necessarily feel because.
Yeah.
On most of these, I'm starting out pretty high,
Oh,
but I don't know how I'm gonna feel in a year.
right. So you do.
So if I start out high and I end up high, doesn't mean you fail.
That's right. That
Right?
means, yeah,
Yeah,
if it was high, we maintained your.
Right,
ability,
right.
Right, so yes, exactly, so if you just fill it out
I
honestly,
feel right now.
right now, this very second.
Kate, can you hear me?
I can. Yay. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't see myself, but I'm just gonna assume.
Can you see me?
I see you now, yes.
Okay, good.
Perfect. There we go. I gotcha. All right, we are, people are trickling in, Charlie. Do you
All right.
see in the chat? Can you see backwards, in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a link. So if you go to the link, it'll take you to a website. And the website has 3 links. One is the PowerPoint handouts, but you're gonna see all the slides. 2 is a scale. It might be easier to print here. The idea is to fill this out before you hear anything and then take a photo and email it to me. And then this one, we're gonna be filling out together. So again, it's probably easier if you print it out, but you can always just make notes on a piece of paper and add it. So this is a way we can give everybody a baseline so they knew what they need to work on. But then also we have a baseline, we can measure change over 6 months to a year. So we can tell people that want to give us money that, hey, our programs are working. So take the time to do that before we get in. Did you get your hip done yet?
Yep.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah? Was
Yeah.
it easier than the last 2?
No.
Oh, really? It's rough?
Yeah.
Why is it different?
Because I think my Parkinson's is more advanced than the last time.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that complicates things.
It complicates it.
So where are these chats you're saying?
So up in the top of the Zoom screen, there should be a chat box. But what I can do is just maybe now you'll get a little
Oh
notification.
yeah, I see. There, yeah.
Yeah, click that. Oh, here, I stole this from someone.
And then, and this, you're just gonna, how many minutes? It's alphabetical by my first name. Oh, okay. Yeah. Foreman. Yeah. After here. H-I-J. You're after Garrett. Garrett. Okay. It is up. Happy there. Put them at 9 at my top. You printed them out? Oh, so they're out there. So she does, then I'll happen. See, and you'll jump back up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I'm not in the alphabetical. I went earlier. Yes, I saw that. And then your address. Yeah.
Wait.
Everybody's filling out their.
Because there's parking, half the parking. No bueno was okay. No. Because last week it was a little bit of a challenge.
You started?
I think the no, or, yeah, well, but I can score it. Yeah, we'll look it up. When you guys are done. And we all don't have to like stand. We can take a seat.
Well, I think that's what these were here too, but we could put these along the side.
Or we can
Yeah.
mix in with people too.
There's like some chairs. How are you? Oh, we don't have to do this one. We're gonna look at it. Oh. Yeah. And this we're gonna do together, we're gonna intermittently throughout the talk, we're gonna try to get everything baseline measurement, so we're gonna look at your single leg down, we'll look at how long and how many steps it takes you to turn around. So we're gonna look at a 30-second, how many sitting and standing you can do in 30 seconds. And we're gonna,
Just about.
say, where do you want me to do it? Sit to stand. Oh, yeah.
They're starting off with that.
How comfortable? Well, that's.
Well, right now, no. But we're trying to- And then, But, we do, no. Yeah, yeah.
What?
They didn't call though.
I have one on Zoom. I don't know. I mean, we're recording it. So.
Okay. Because we got 1, 2, 3. I don't know if she's with somebody, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it was today.
I don't know, there's a lot less than the other one. And I think they're gonna move Banbury. But so. Andrew's gonna get some stuff coming down.
Okay.
Like with one chunk. Maybe 50.
All right. We're gonna give it 1 more minute. We'll see if anyone else comes and then we'll get started, okay? We're just gonna give it 1 more second here.
I did this and we don't have.
Is there anybody else out there like wandering? Nobody's, okay, and then she'll send them. Okay. Okay. All right, we'll get started, and if we get some people wandering in, but we are recording this, so did you? It's recording, so we'll edit things. Cool. All right, hi, I'm Gigi Weiss. I'm the Director of Rehab Services here at RV&A Health. Everybody, is this the first time you guys have been here, or were you here last week? Anybody new to RV&A Health? No? Are you here for somebody, or you're just? Oh, nice. Okay, good. Welcome. So we're very excited to have you. This is our first. We had our introduction last week to the Parkinson Center, and now we're here to get our center kind of kicked off here. So I'll put up my slide, enter. I hit the space bar. I have to hit the, no.
Is the, hang on.
What did you hit? Was it the enter?
I think the arrow was just on
Just
the wrong
off.
spot.
Okay.
Should be good.
Okay, so this is me. I'm Gigi. I am Director of RV&A Health, the Rehab Department. I oversee home health. I oversee the Outpatient Rehabilitation Wellness Center, and now our newest initiative, which is the Parkinson Center. I've been a PT for 25 years. and in all aspects of therapy. I started in acute care, I went to acute rehab, I went to outpatient, and then I've kind of ended up here at in home health, which for the last almost 15 years. So I also do vestibular rehab, I do fall prevention. I am a certified dementia practitioner trainer. All of one of our other initiatives here at RVNA Health is that our clinicians are certified in dementia training. So that's one thing that we also do. So let me go here. Tell you a little bit about our continuum of services. This Parkinson Center, again, is part of the entire continuum of services. We have our 4 main services: Be Well, which is our community health and wellness, our Get Well program, which is kind of our home health, and our outpatient, Staying Well, which is our private pay services, private duty nursing, private duty caregivers, and then our Comfort Well, which is our hospice services. So we are very excited to educate you guys on everything that we have to offer. So today we're beginning with, education. We're here to educate you. We will cover Parkinson's disease, diagnosis, symptoms. We want to have you to learn how to manage all those symptoms that you have, and we're going to start with that today. Remember that you have Parkinson's, but it doesn't have you. You are not Parkinson's. It's something that you will have to live with, but we're here to help you live your best life. We want to give you any of the resources that you can do to kind of support you along the way. We're going to quickly today kind of review what the Parkinson Center is. We're going to also kind of give you guys baselines. So that's what some of that you have there. We want to establish baselines for all of you as far as your mobility and your function, so that we can continue to monitor it starting today and in the future, so we can see how well you're doing, and where we can kind of also use those baselines, use that data to kind of move our program to what you guys need. We also want to use that data to help us when we're applying for grants, because we want to be able to pay for this, and that data allows us to be able to apply for grants. So it's really important. And then you will meet the team, which you kind of were introduced last week, but each team member will kind of tell you what their role is as the interprofessional team. Let's see, did I get everything here? We want to provide you with resources and establish our baseline. So where we're going to start, I want to just introduce one of the team that you'll meet here, when a lot of us are physical therapists, and really what is our role as a physical therapist as part of the team. First of all, we're going to do an overall assessment. We're going to assess your overall mobility, which is your walking, your flexibility, your strength. We're going to establish those baselines in an assessment. We're going to create a care plan. So what does that mean? We're going to use the findings that we find and establish an individual care plan for you, what you need, what classes you need, what treatments you may need. We can also make recommendations for other services. So if you come in and see a physical therapist, they might say, okay, we'll work on the overall body mobility, and then we're going to say that the OT is going to work on that fine motor stuff. Maybe you need to see the speech therapist because of your speech and language. So we can also help make those recommendations as well. And we're going to establish joint goals. What does that mean? These aren't our goals as clinicians. These are your goals, what you want to get out of this program, what you want to get out of the therapy. So they are goals that we work together. So overall physical therapy, we can increase mobility and strength in your muscles, improve coordinations, and this all in the efforts to maintain the highest functional level going forward, and for all mobility. So that's just kind of a general overview of what physical therapists do, but you will then now meet a little bit of the rest of the team. But Kate is going to kind of talk to you a little bit about what is Parkinson's and diagnosis and treatment and all that other good stuff. Okay, can you hear us okay on Zoom?
Yep, perfectly.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Kate Campbell. I know most of you in the room. I am a physical therapist, And I've been treating people with Parkinson's for many, many years. Downstairs in our clinic, was out in the home, in outpatient, in assisted living facilities. And I came into LSBT big, and it definitely changed my life and how I treat people with Parkinson's. So I'm also the program manager for the center, which means I help make things happen. So if something is not happening for you, you need to tell me so I can make it happen for you, because I didn't do this for me. We did this for you guys. So let's talk about what is Parkinson's disease. And they're, thinking about what's going on in the brain. It's a little scary, but it's a neurodegenerative disorder. And yes, that part of the brain does degenerate. Dopamine is one of those really important chemicals that our body produces and uses. It's produced in the substantia nigra, but that is what is breaking down in Parkinson's. And it's not giving the dopamine to the rest of the parts of the brain that really need it. Dopamine goes into the basal ganglia, which is really important to control movement. So dopamine's also not just works with movement, but has a lot to do in the brain with emotions. And that's how we can get symptoms like depression and anxiety. But we also release dopamine when you do something that gives you pleasure. Does anyone golf in the room? I know Charlie. Any golfers? Are you good? No, we're horrible, but we keep doing it, right? Because of that, like that one shot, right? You hit this one shot and it is so good that dopamine is released and your body says, ooh, I like that. So you go back to golf looking for more dopamine, okay? So when we do our therapy, we also need to evoke a positive response. We need to make you happy. We need to make it functional. We need to make it important to you so that you see benefit and you get happy and you get dopamine. Okay. That's an important connection, how the chemical and what we do. But this controls movement. I like to tell my patients, you really are two people. You and your brain are different people. There's part of your brain that lets you do things automatically, because I can walk and talk and text and climb stairs and look for my phone and shout to my husband, and I'm walking at the same time and I don't fall. My body just takes over the walking so that my conscious brain can do all the work. Well, the substantia nigra and the dopamine and the basal ganglia don't let that happen. So if you are thinking of something else and not your walking fails, or that reach to go get the fork to bring it fails, and it gets a tremory, it gets stiff, and it has these slow movements. So if that part of the brain that called the central gait pattern, specifically with walking, isn't working, but you and the rest of your conscious brain is fantastic and sharp, use it. So sometimes you have to shut it down and say, wait, stop, go, think about the step, think about the walking, think about the reach, and automatically it's fantastic. And with Parkinson's disease, we aim to teach that, because once you know it, you can use it. And once you use it all the time, it becomes part of you. And the brain is a wonderful thing to treat as a therapist, because it changes, it grows, it heals quickly, it learns at any age. I have to wait for muscles to heal, and I have to wait for bones to heal, and I have to wait for scar tissue. That's so much harder. That makes me look bad as a therapist. Treating neurological issues is good, because the brain and the nerves like to heal and grow. And if they don't, we find other ways around them. Okay, any questions there? So how do you know you have PD? Usually people have symptoms and don't know it for, what was it, like 3 to 7 years before they get a diagnosis. Then when they get the diagnosis, it's they finally said, I can't deal with this anymore. I need to go to my PCP, who might send them to the neurologist, who might go to a movement disorder specialist. And somewhere in there, they go, I'm a little suspicious. So sometimes the first thing is, let's just put dopamine in your body and see what happens. So they give you levodopa carbidopa. If you get better, it must be Parkinson's. That might be it. Sometimes they say, before you get the meds, let's go get you a scan. So they were doing PET scans, which was looking more at like sugars in the brain and how your brain metabolizes sugars. Now they're using these DAT scans, and that shows the levels of Parkinson, the levels of dopamine in the brain. So the lack of dopamine means that you have the Parkinson's. But does everybody follow Michael J. Fox Foundation? Oh, they have been, get on their emails. They have been blasting hard that they found a new biomarker that they can test. Was it in blood or spinal fluid? But the idea is that there's something in your body that changes long before you have symptoms. So maybe if we know it earlier, can we treat it better? Would you change your life? I don't know. Big like ethical questions here, but knowing that we can track it early is the next step, long before we can make a cure. But anyway, pretty cool that that's how we diagnose and treat, and the research is still ongoing. Questions here? Yeah.
My neurologist explained it as a diagnosis of exclusion. In other words, it's not anything else, so therefore it's probably Parkinson's. So
Yes.
It sounded kind of fuzzy to me.
Yeah. There are other diagnoses like that too. Fibromyalgia, sometimes MS gets like, so let's try everything else first. And then good and bad. I mean, they could have just done a scan. Maybe it wouldn't have shown up if it was too early. I don't know. But I think that is definitely one of the methods, is just let's rule this out and that out and that out. There must be nothing left.
I think that's important for the biomarker. That's why the Fox Foundation is that hey, there's more of a scientific.
Could be more specific, right? But
Yeah.
that doesn't help us right now. because
Does
it's
not help you at all.
Eventually.
Eventually, yes.
Well, it's the stepping stone to a cure.
Right.
To find
Yeah.
Right.
So I think knowing now that what is happening in the brain degrades the amount of dopamine, also the dopamine receptor. So who cares if you have all the dopamine? If your receptors aren't listening, it's as if you have none. So with that, it leads to different motor symptoms because that part of the brain controls movement. So the lack of dopamine means you don't have this strong go signal. When you start to walk, it might be a little shaky. When you start to move your arm, it may not go. It feels stiff. It just doesn't want to start going. It doesn't want to stop. So sometimes you're overshooting your target, whether it's with your feet or your arms. And the stop signal isn't very strong. And the classic example of this is that festinating or shuffling gait. Am I going? Am I stopping? Am I going? Wait, I don't know what's going on. But if you can tell your body, stop, go, with that conscious brain, you can move through it and you can walk through it. Bradykinesia, same thing, is a very slow movement. And when we think movement, we're thinking arms and legs, but mouth, facial features. So sometimes people with, it's hard sometimes to speak in front of a group of Parkinson's patients because I have no clue if they're happy or not. It's just kind of this blank face. And it's just because of the facial muscles aren't moving as well. The cogwheel rigidity makes you feel stiffness, but if we were measuring it, it would be like jerky. We see often resting tremor. We call it the pill rolling. It could be in the hands, it could be in the feet. Sometimes it's a symptom, sometimes it's not. It could change with the meds depending on the level of dopamine in your body. But it's important when people see a tremor, they go, oh, you have Parkinson's. If they're reaching for that glass of water and feel it, that's an intention tremor. That's the opposite. So this is more a tremor at rest because you're thinking about this presentation. You're thinking about something else because that automatic brain isn't working. You're getting uncontrolled movement. But if you think about it, you might be able to change it temporarily. And then postural instability, because we're not using our posture muscles, our glutes, our back, our core the same way, it could lead to imbalances. And we hear a lot about falls. So that's all motor, but it does a lot of other things in the brain. And that's why we have to have so many people on this team to deal with all these other symptoms like cognition. It just changes how we think, how we execute, how we pay attention. And I'm not going to talk because Susan's got a great part about that. Emotional changes, it creates anxiety, not just because you have the disease, but because of the chemical changes in your brain, and apathy, just that lack of motivation, lack of getting up and going. Sensory changes. Sometimes people have pain, paresthesia, tingling, burning, but also if you're not aware and feeling your feet and your limbs, your balance is off. So we as therapists have to take that into consideration when we're treating, but also teach the brain another way to sense and feel so that you can maintain your balance. things happen inside your body. We have muscles that are bigger than just our outside muscles. We have a lot of smooth muscle that's making our arteries work and our digestive system go. So if they slow down, so do bowel movements. So constipation is a huge issue. Pelvic floor muscles are part of this. So there's a lot of sometimes weakness and incontinence or the other way. Blurry vision, shortness of breath just come with all of this. Sleep disorders, that's its own slide. Megan's got that. And again, with the lack of dopamine comes depression, and the cognition could come dementia. Not everyone gets every symptom. Everybody's Parkinson's is different, but with so many people with Parkinson's, we've linked that these are the common symptoms. I want you guys to walk away with this. This PowerPoint will be available online. So you will get an email saying, thanks for coming. And for those of you who didn't, here's the PowerPoint, because I want you guys to have access to this. Our website has some resources to link to other organizations and some article summaries, this slideshow, this recording, share it, review it. Go to the Parkinson's Foundation because they have free books. If you want to look at them, there's like one on each category of cognition, swallowing, physical, exercise, mood, relationships, caregivers. I could go on. And we have a sample of each one downstairs if you're interested in picking one up before you go out or order them yourself. The other one's a hospital kit. Sometimes something happens to you, you go to the hospital. Do you know how long it takes to get your meds? And you need levodopa carbidopa right away and on time. So often we hear, well, I went to the hospital for one thing and then I was a wreck because of my Parkinson's because they didn't give me the meds. So it has like an ID bracelet and some forms to help communicate to the staff that you have Parkinson's, get the meds right away. I highly recommend you get that kit. And then there's other educational opportunities. Michael J. Fox organization is really about research, but they do have this Parkinson's 360 guide. You can download it and it's free. And then the Davis Phinney Foundation. Davis Phinney was a biker, right? He was the bike racer. So he came down with Parkinson's and he has this foundation with every victory counts. And it is like a manual that would hurt if I hit you over the head with it. It is so much information, and there's one for care partners. So again, we have that if you'd like to look at it. Otherwise, please go online and order your own. Someone the other day says, oh, but I exercise. I go to a personal trainer. So that's awesome. Send them this link. We are all going to take this, by the way. It's like a 1 to 2 hour free course for exercise professionals to learn how to adapt exercise for people with Parkinson's. So if you go out, it doesn't have to be us, tell them, hey, would you take this course just so you understand how to help me better? And you can get money. We're trying to ask for money to run this, but you can get money to fund your journey through the Parkinson's Wellness Fund. There's a link. PD Alliance.
That's just like more like the foundation, which is more resources.
Okay. And the other three, you talk about the other three.
So the MediFlex Parkinson's programming, it's actually like a YouTube channel, if you will. It's like almost like watching streaming TV, but it has so many inspiring stories on it. So, there's so much information out there, but they're more like movies, if you will. And so it's just like, it's sort of like having like a Parkinson's channel TV. I mean, you have to see for yourself. I feel like maybe we're overwhelming you with information. So maybe you don't want to do these all at once.
Yeah.
But I just, if anybody here's on social media, I just follow it on social media, and then just some of the things come up, and if they're interesting, it catches my eye. And then the last thing there is we were gonna have some people fill it out. It's
We're gonna do it, yeah.
It's an online 32 question sliding scale about all of your symptoms that you can possibly have. It sounds overwhelming. I recommend that it's a great thing to do when you're not overwhelmed, you're not like, stop giving me paperwork or whatever. But it's a study run by this Laura Mishley, who is a dietitian and like sort of, I guess, what you call integrative medicine person, who's been doing research for a very, very long time And what's great about it is just, it's not even like it's, I don't want to say it's not scientific research, but because so many people do it, these 33 questions, she has been able to say like the types of food people eat that are more like, that have look like worse progression of Parkinson's versus people who eat this have better progressions, or what they do in life. And then you can compare your own scores. And if you look at that picture up there, it's just something you could do like once a year or once every 6 months. And you're see that like inversely, I don't know, people with graphing, right? Inverse proportional line. You're supposed to stay below the line, right? So the people that stay below the line are the people that are managing their symptoms well, you're managing your Parkinson's well, and you're doing a great job with this chronic disease. And then if you get to the line or start going above, you can kind of like look at those areas when you scored really low or really high, I can't remember. You could say, oh, you know what, maybe I need to meet with, you know, a nutritional person like Monica here and say, what's going on with my eating habits? How can I do this better? Or not really exercising. I have these barriers to exercise, and maybe I'm going to say, oh, I need to talk to a physical therapist or whatever. So anyway, I highly recommend people going to that link and filling it out when you have time, because I think it's just like we say, we're going to get baselines today. It's more rounded baselines of like everything. And it's super easy.
Yeah, what it's on the sheet with the yellow, that QR code. All you do is put your camera over it, like you're going to take a picture, and it brings you to a yellow button with a website, or you can type in the website. But I would love for you to do it. If it's not today, it's okay. But then send me your result so we can document, where do our center members start and where do our center members leave. And one of our goals for getting grant money is that we can bring people over the severity line to below, and people who are below, keep them there.
Right, so lower score is better.
Lower score is better.
Are you talking about send you these results or the Pro PD results?
The Pro PD results. Those results we're going to take a photo of before you walk out of this room so that we can document your baselines, but then you have something to walk out with. Again, just links, join a study. This happened because of all the people that came before you that were in research trials. We now have best treatments. Be part of it. So here's a couple links to see if there's any studies in our area. I know Yale does a bunch, and they're pretty local. So I'm going to take off my Parkinson Center hat and talk about one of the factors that was balance. Oh, here's the Queen. I love the Queen. I have a picture of the Queen here because she's waving to the crowd, looking around, walking downstairs while carrying her pocketbook and looking darn good at the same time, right? That's good balance. Balance doesn't mean you can stand on one leg necessarily. That's part of it, but it's that you can adjust your posture based on whatever's going around. If you're leaning left or right or up or downstairs or sitting or standing or your head's moving or eyes closed, that is good balance. So we need it so that we can see clearly what's going on in our environment, orient ourselves upright against gravity so that we don't fall down. And I'm not going through all this. I just want you to appreciate how complex balance is. But there's 3 systems that give us balance, and thank goodness, because if one failed, we'd be falling all over the ground. So one is vision. I see that I'm upright. I see that I'm looking at the ceiling. I see that I'm looking at the floor. And that tells me, where am I in response to the environment? 2 is the sensation you get in your feet, in your joints, in your skin, in your knees. It signals to the brain, you're more on the right foot, you're leaning on your toes, so that your brain can make a decision. I don't like being on my right foot, get back over to the left. And then the 3rd is what's going on inside in the inner ear. You can't really, it's like so much deeper than in here. And it has to do with fluid and crystals, and think of like, what are those, one of those like rain sticks that it goes this way and then or a snow globe, right? So as it rotates left or right, I can feel that movement. I can feel rotation, and I can feel even up and down. Ever figure out, like, if you're in an elevator, you know if you're going up or down or not, right? But the wall isn't changing, your feet aren't changing. Your brain inside your inner ear can sense that. And then your brain says, okay, I'll take all this information and digest it. And then I'm going to make a decision to put my foot down or put my hands out or activate my glute and back muscles so that I can maintain balance. That's just what I want you to appreciate, that it is very complicated and there's many ways in and a couple ways out. Our job as physical therapists is to assess your balance, and we have many, many, many tests, and it's been highly researched because Medicare cares greatly about people falling because it costs them money. After our assessments, we would prescribe some exercises that you could do at home, but then we would also do exercises in the clinic, because to make balance better, it has to be hard. So when people say, yeah, I stand on one foot the whole time and I'm holding on, well, if it's easy, you're not learning. You need to have like a fail rate of 60%, but when we talk about balance, that doesn't sound safe. So we need to do it in the presence of a caregiver or a therapist or someone that can help you stay safe while challenging the system. And there's Christine working with Mary. So every topic today is going to say, what can you do when you walk out of the door in terms of your balance? Maybe consult a physical therapist to get the right assessment and then get the right exercise program for you, and start balance exercises. Again, they should be challenging, but safe. One would be standing on one leg. Another would be walking and looking left and right, or walking and look up and down. It's harder in heels. And standing with your feet together, eyes closed. And I picked this one because when your eyes are closed, you just took away an entire system of balance so that your brain can learn and focus on the others. So we told you baselines. I am almost done and I'm getting off this podium. So we're gonna take a break and do them. So would you all stand up if you are willing and able? And get out, maybe I need a timer. We're going to just help them time, like one per person. We're going to do a couple trial runs and then you're going to test. So someone come over here with Al and Craig and Morgan, pair up. And we're going to just time them on one foot, and then we're going to write it down and see how you do. All right. So the task is hands on your hips, stand on one foot. If I give it a practice, good. Try the other one. While we're getting ready for the official time. Okay. Are we ready? Timer is set. On your mark, get set, go. Hold it up. Let's see. Single leg balance. Charlie, you can't do this yet, but we'll get you there. Good. Keep it going. Keep it going. No leaning. No leaning. Good job.
Let's do the right.
Oh, save this. Wow, we got some good people here. Nice job. We still going? Craig, come on. It's you and me. I think I would have called it at the jumping. Good job. Shake it out. Good. Write it down for what leg you did. You see the left leg? You wrote it down?
I didn't.
Oh no.
We'll go back.
Okay.
Let's see. We'll do.
All right. Other leg. You ready? You did both of them already? On your mark, get set, go.
Wait, what are we doing?
Other leg.
Oh,
Okay, that's fine.
Morgan's ahead. He's advanced.
For those of you, if you got to 30 seconds, then we'll do it with eyes closed.
Okay.
Wow.
Not qualified for that.
Good. Al still going? All right. So interesting study. If you cannot stand on one foot for 10 seconds, it's an 84% increased risk of death over the next 7 years. I know, not because you can't stand on one foot, but because that's your body can't handle that, therefore other things. Yes. Okay, next one. So something that, again, that controlled movement, difficult to control movement that we hear a lot is turning in a circle. So I can't tell you how to do it, but I'm going to give you a practice run each way. Turn in a circle as quickly but safely as possible. Good. So make sure after you do one practice round each way, we're going to time it
and count the number of steps. I think everybody's just got it. So you're gonna turn in a circle. Open, thank goodness. Time it and count how many steps he did.
Okay.
You can tell him when to go.
Okay. Tell me when you're ready.
Good.
That was 11 seconds and 12.
Oh,
Good.
We said that, yeah.
Good.
That was the right.
Good job, guys. When you're done, you can sit.
Got better?
Good. All right. We have our data. So
Yeah, it was 8.
So on your form, you're gonna put single leg stance on right and left, and then circle. Were you above the norm, below the norm, or average? Here are your norms. So look at gender and age, and based on this number, circle yours. You're on the bottom of the list. Oh, good. So you were way above average.
Okay.
Way above.
Good for you.
Good job.
Yeah.
You have that in here right now.
Yes.
No, it's on, just on the handout. Yeah. Good. If you want, you're taking this paper home. So if you want to write down your norm, I just didn't want to give you guys tons of paper to go home with. You write down your goal. Good. Everybody got this? Next is turning time. If you were, what's up?
Oh, that's the.
And then this is the turning time. If you were higher than 5.7 seconds and took more than 9 steps, that is below average. That is a fall risk. If you are less than 4 seconds and 4 steps or less, you are above average. So just circle your category. So you know is because I mean, just a number doesn't help you. You need to know if it's below or.
Yeah, no.
Okay. We're moving along.
All right, wish me luck here.
Good luck.
Wait, can you help me though? Can you help me for a second?
Oh,
What do I do? Like, is this a touchscreen or no?
no,
Oh.
it's not.
What do I do so I can see my right? Like, can you move?
Well, that's all you have for that one.
Yeah, but doesn't it go all the way across?
No, I made it so it's this really big box.
Okay,
It
perfect.
fits most of it. So you can hit space bar or the down button or
Go back. Perfect. Thank you.
you're
Space button or the down. Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good time. Hope this isn't too much stuff all at once, but I'm Andrea DeLonge. I'm the Parkinson Center clinical lead. And all that means is that, well, I'm a physical therapist. I do treat people in the outpatient rehabilitation and wellness center. I like love to absorb as much information about Parkinson's that I can. It's just so fascinating to me. I really have I wish I had like a great story where I could say, my mom had it or something like that. I don't really have a great story. I just think it's awesome that you can have something like Parkinson's and you could follow the science and you can get better. I just think it's so fascinating. And the brain and all that. And so I just love the information. So, Kate sort of said, why don't you be the clinical lead? You get all these resources, you find all these videos and all this information. And I was like, sign me up. Sign me up for that. That's awesome. So I lead classes. I lead a wellness class called Balance and Beyond. Coming up soon this summer, we're going to start our PD boot camp. And I'm going to work on facilitating the different types of exercise classes that we're going to have in the PD boot camp, as well as probably train some of them. Sarah and I are going to put together a boxing class, which is going to be so super fun. We're like really pumped for that. I'm going to try to hit these topics. We're all kind of dividing and conquering. I want to talk about pelvic health. Not today, but as we get into PD boot camp. I know, don't go running, anybody, but I want to talk about these things, the urgency, frequency of continence. I want to talk about intimacy. I want to talk about any kind of pain you're having, caregivers, care partners, and patients with Parkinson's as well. They're really, really important. You need to live a full life. You need to get that dopamine. So let's get it. I also, and today I'm going to talk about exercise prescription. I love talking about fall prevention and how to fall. That's Kate and I put together an in-service on that, and we actually teach people how to fall, because sadly we know, although we're practicing balance, it happens. It's hard to not have it happen, although we do our best. I also love to be connected with some of the movement disorder specialists around the area. And so I try to be up to date on what, getting links, or if I go to a talk or a symposium and they talk about research, if I can help them get participants, it's all about finding a cure, right? So anyway, with that said, Kate just beat over the head, and Gigi, what you do, what you get, and how many people here, has anyone here not had a physical therapy evaluation who has Parkinson's? Has everyone been through PT? Excellent. So you know what? Maybe you guys could tell me what we do in a physical therapy. So as you know, there's strength involved, there's posture assessment, there's mobility and flexibility. Did it move? Yes. A walking assessment. I'm not going to go into, everyone's touching on this. We do a fall risk assessment with some of those measurements we just did. A cognitive screen, but fortunately we have this wonderful team of people. So the physical therapist doesn't have to do it all. I don't have to do it all. I have this awesome team here, and I can say, cognitive therapy, wow, Susan, I got a patient for you. So that's really awesome. One of the great things about our program. And of course, we're going to look at how you walk. So I just wanted to talk about, so I'm talking today about exercise prescription, and I just wanted to, I know Al and Craig have been to the talks before, and they are always the guys who go, where's the research? So I know Kate did this whole presentation on the dopamine in the brain and this and that and what it does, and how we all know that exercise, but there is this movement disorder specialist named Dr. Alshkog. He is a movement disorder specialist in the Mayo Clinic. And he summarizes in this comprehensive, I'll explain it in a minute. He did like a PubMed literature review, and he did a very wide thing. And he specifically summarized that there is no medication that has been found to slow the progression of Parkinson's. So let's just be clear. There is no medication. There's no medication. But in his PubMed review of thousands of studies, he found that exercise and high intensity exercise can slow the progression of Parkinson's. And he didn't just find it in 1 to 10 of these articles. He found them in thousands of articles, and they all said the same thing. So that's why I just wanted to kind of hit the highlights of this study, because it's so important. They're talking about aerobic exercise. And some of the studies did involve animal. And again, Kate did a great job explaining what neuroplasticity is. And it's just the point that our brains are flexible, and they're changeable, and they're malleable. And like just what Kate said, which is great, because it's never too late to exercise. It's not like you're like, oh, is it too far gone? Am I too old? No, you're not. You can start. And then one of the things is what we want to do in this program is we want to meet you where you're at. So I think there was a question, I don't know if it's somebody who is here, well, I don't know that I can exercise for 30 minutes at 60 to 80% of my maximum heart rate. Well, you don't. You just have to start where you're at with what you're capable of doing, and just push yourself step by step to gradually just push yourself harder. That's really all you have to do. But the important thing is that in this study, it showed that you can change your brain by building connections, neural connections, and also you can prevent atrophy of your brain. In other words, your brain can physically get bigger, which is actually a good thing. I don't know, like you look at a mouse, right? So it's good. So that's important. And then he also found in his literature review that exercise is also preventative. So it has a preventative part to it, sorry. And also he just concluded that what I just said earlier, which is just that there are so many articles that to not be doing this is kind of silly, that exercise is really medicine. I don't know if anybody had any questions about that. This is just another article that is really kind of interesting is it looked at people. The aim of this study was to look at people's motor function. And what they did was they had two groups of people on bicycles, right? On bicycles. And they had one group that was put in a group where they were forced to exercise 30% harder than their voluntary, like how I would normally ride a bike. And then the other group just rode a bike at their voluntary speed that they would normally ride at. The funny, interesting part was they were all at 60 to 80% of their maximum heart rate, but they found that the people that were doing the higher intensity or biking 80 to 90 RPM, so faster and harder than you typically would voluntarily, with like Kate or Chris barking at you guys in your class, right? In the LSVT Big for Life class, is they had less progression of Parkinson's. So sorry.
And I feel like there's something about that speed that works to the central gait pattern, that when you get off that bike, your brain knows to move your feet at that speed. So they've done like immediate tests before and after, and walking improves. And I've definitely taken people through it, not just on the bike, but on the new step, and which is just like the seated elliptical machine, and getting it hard.
Right.
And if they can't maintain it, I'm helping, I'm pushing, but I rather lighter resistance, faster speed, so that it just continues to give the
Right. So you know that unified Parkinson's disease test that you go when you get to your neurologist, where you're tapping and they're pulling your shoulders back and you get like a compilated score. The people that did the forced exercise had improved 35%, while the voluntary effort didn't show any improvement at all in that score. So, like Kate said, there's definitely something towards that. Sure.
You were saying it's better to do speed and back off a little bit on the resistance.
correct. If the primary goal is the speed. If you cannot reach that speed at that resistance, lessen the resistance so you can meet that speed.
So to stay at the high RPM as
And if-
opposed to, right.
Yeah, and if you can't meet it even at the lowest level, someone to assist you is still more valuable than you just doing the best you can.
So you mean like get an e-bike? Is that what you're saying?
Just that, she's downstairs.
Yeah.
We're out in the real world. What does that mean?
Oh, out in the real, well, you have to have
Well,
a computer. Like there are things that can monitor your RPMs on your bike.
Well, what about walking?
it's just different. It's just,
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say this is just one study. This is not saying, again, we talked about like salience, right? Like if you hate biking, this is not for you. You don't only have to do high intensity on a bike. You can do high intensity on a treadmill. You can do high intensity on an erg. You can do, this is just was showing that pushing yourself to that high intensity does something to the brain. Right? So, yeah. And, I can get you guys these articles if you want. So, so benefits of exercise are just these improvements in, it has a positive, not just on the brain, but functionally, right? Improves our walking, our flexibility, our working memory, and just all these things, your quality of sleep. I think if, you got to get tired during the day to sleep better at night. And we see a reduction in falls, freezing of gait, and of course, those depression, anxiety. So we kind of did a talk on this. Some of the people are already here, but the Parkinson's Foundation and the American Academy of Sports Medicine came together and came up with exercise guidelines for people with Parkinson's. And they came up with these 4 categories. I'm gonna kind of give you the take home of it, which is basically, there are considerations to be careful of, like, your blood pressure, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your heart rate, safety, like doing it with a buddy and that kind of thing. But basically you're looking at some kind of aerobic exercise, which is that biking or that treadmill or whatever we were just talking about, 3 days a week, getting towards 30 minutes. And aerobic exercise, just to bring out, it should be consecutive and it could be every day. You could do 2 days in a row. Strength training, on the other hand, which is lifting heavy weights, right? It's like, or not heavy weights, but lifting weights against, or any resistance type like bands or your body weight or whatever, is 2 to 3 days a week, but they should not necessarily be consecutive, because in order to, you want to ask a question?
Here's the question.
Sure.
Trying to do it every day. Going to be different things.
Absolutely.
Like walking one day, hiking.
Absolutely. Yes. Does not have to be one thing. That's a great question.
I do a bunch of exercise, so there's someone here I can talk to after this, to see if what I'm doing is okay.
Oh my gosh, there's so many that could talk to you about this. Yes, stay, yes, I know, we're excited, right?
Anybody,
We're gonna
really?
Help you make your plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And Tom, and I got another slide. I got you.
Goal
Yes.
to reach 90. Skiing.
Oh, I love that.
You're talking to the right person.
You just right?
Yeah.
I'll go to Utah. When are we going?
This is the worst ski year in my skiing history of 8 days
Oh,
because of the conditions. And I'm 80, almost 80.
because you're an East Coast skier?
Yeah. yeah,
Um,
that's the- West Coast, I can't hit the handle of the opportunity.
right, right.
And it,
You gotta get an Epic or an Icon pass. Oh, jealous. I'm not gonna tell you a lot.
But you're gonna have to fight global warming too, so that you have better conditions in the year.
I'll tell you later how many days I had this year, but you know what? Huh? I won't.
was it better or worse? A lot better.
Yeah. It wasn't all good though. I'll tell you that. It wasn't all good. All right, so we got the strength training. So you don't want to do it consecutively, because in order to build muscle, we have to break it down. And sometimes that causes soreness or tenderness. And so your body might need a day in between to sort of recover. The third thing here, the third category, is balance, agility, and multitasking. And Kate did a really good job about talking about the thinking and doing something at the same time. And that's what we're talking about that. And balance and agility might be, as an example, a boxing class or a Parkinson specific exercise class like LSVT big or power moves, or like a high intensity custom circuit training class like Balance and Beyond that I teach as well. And Chris teaches a Parkinson specific class. So what's great about a Parkinson specific exercise program is it hits on all of these things. So if you're not sure, like you were saying, I don't know if I'm hitting all the buttons, if you just do one of those classes, then you're checking all the boxes, right? And so the last one was stretching, and stretching is important to like maybe cool down. We know mobility is super important, but in terms of like slowing the progression down, it's something to do. You could do it every day, you could do it every other day, but it's not quite as important as the first three. I just want to really point out. So here's what a typical week might look like. And I don't know if this will help you, is, here I did this, but you don't have to like make this the Bible, but you might do some kind of aerobic exercise. I just gave some examples. It could be, like you said, does it have to be the same thing every time? No, you could go for a bike ride. You could do a power walk outside. You could go on the treadmill, and you could do that. I put it in 3 days a week, right? Strength training is 2 days a week. And then I also added in there, like, sometimes in these classes, like I've seen some dance classes where they hold weights, or yoga or Tai Chi or boxing may double as some of these things. And then, I threw in there also like Thursday, like agility, pickleball, or if you join a softball team or something like that, like that's a great activity as well. And then I just threw in Sunday as just a time to rest or catch up. It's okay to rest a day. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. So then the last thing I really want to talk about is overcoming. So sometimes we have reasons we can't get to these exercise recommendations, or I just don't know where to start, right? I got a new diagnosis a couple weeks ago or whatever, or I'm having this pain. I just don't know where to start. So maybe a physical therapy evaluation is a good place to start, because as we kind of are beating it over the head, what we do in an evaluation, we might refer you to another discipline, or we might be able to say, you know what, you don't need physical therapy one-on-one, you need this class. What do you like to do? And we can help you figure that out. Or maybe you don't even need to come to physical therapy, but if you're not sure, or you're having pain, or your balance is off and it's preventing you from doing a class, or you're freezing a lot, or you're just not motivated, or you're feeling too deconditioned to do the treadmill on your own or something like that, come in. Let us check you out. Let us do an evaluation and try to help you get over that hump. Anybody have any questions about that? So summary, what can you do now? Exercise is medicine. Exercise with someone who understands Parkinson's, because as you can see from this presentation, there are specific scientific evidence-based things that you should be doing. The summary of that research is during 1 week, you should try to hit that 150 minutes a week of exercise. And, you know, again, it takes a village. Don't try to do it alone. You might need a buddy, somebody to hold you accountable. Ask one of us, a healthcare professional. We have, Kate's going to go over all the ways to contact us and get in touch with us. And so I think that's it. And so, oh, are we doing more? Okay. Okay, so everybody, we need to be in chairs that don't roll.
Or we can just push them back.
Or you can push your chair against the wall.
And this one we can all do at the same.
Yeah, we can all do this at the same time. So I will time everybody.
So push your, yeah, we're gonna push your chair all the way back so that the wheels don't go.
Okay,
But sit to the edge of your chair.
so we have normative values, and feel free to do it because you can see where you are. It doesn't matter whether we get care partners can do it too, right? So we want to see, there are,
Don't give my goals yet.
no, I'm not saying, there are match norms to how old you are, what sex you are, gender, that how like that are scientifically researched that say what your average or norm should be. So what you're going to do is, everybody, if you need your hands, go ahead and use your hands. You're going to write it on the sheet that you used your hands though. If you don't need to use your hands, you're going to cross them across your chest. And when I say go, you're going to stand up and sit down. I don't want to see like this. All right, you got to stand all the way up and then sit all the way down and stand up. But it is a time test, so try to get
Let's
it.
practice one just to make sure.
Let's see, everybody's going to stand up one time. And then you're gonna sit back down. You can use your arms if you want, go ahead. Just document that you used your arms. So we're gonna do it for 30 seconds. I will do a countdown. Is everybody ready?
Count your own.
Yeah, oh yeah. Everybody count.
Everybody count your own numbers, so you can write it
Count the
down.
number of times you stood up. That's what we're counting. Not number of times you're buttoning the chair. The number of times you stood up.
Well, up, down, one.
No, 1, 2, right? That's how you do it. It's the up. Okay. Is everybody ready? Count your own. Here we go. Ready and go. All right, you're halfway. 10 seconds. 5. And stop. I know. Sheet, and then you can look up here. Look up here, and you can see your age. And if you're a man or a woman, and you can see how many you should have done. And you can circle. Are you a walrus? Or did you meet your norm?
Wait, I don't need this.
Okay, so how many did you do?
21.
Oh,
How old are you?
amazing. You're
You're
really like,
82.
you're 50 according to this chart.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did great. You're above, way above normal.
So your norm should have been 13 or 13, but you killed it.
Yeah.
So.
It almost killed me.
What this would tell us, if you didn't hit your norm, or you were like right on the number, maybe you could use a little strengthening, right? A little more conditioning in terms of your lower legs, right? In terms of like, if you had to get up off the floor, you need your legs to do that. If you were on a really low chair and you had to get up, right? So anyway, okay. So now I'm going to introduce Amy. Okay, and she's our resident social worker.
Hello,
Thank you.
everybody. First of all, thank you for coming. Really, we all really appreciate that you're here with us. And my name is Amy Fader. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also a certified dementia practitioner. I graduated from my master's in 1994, which is a very long time ago. And I started my career at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. I worked at NYU Medical Center. When I moved to Connecticut, I worked at the Jewish Home for the Elderly for 10 years as a geriatric care manager. And I started here, actually today is my 2-year anniversary at RVNA Health. Thank you very much, as a hospice and palliative social worker. When Kate and Andrea asked if I'd be interested in joining the program, they realized that not only does everyone need help with their body, but also their mind. So I'm happy to be here. And what my role is going to be primarily is running support groups for all of you once a month, along with my colleague Garrett, who was unfortunately not able to be here today, but he's a spiritual chaplain as part of our hospice team, and he'll be also running groups with me. Their groups are going to be every Wednesday, the last Wednesday of every month. So the first one is going to be May 31st at 2 p.m. And they're open for both caregivers, which has anybody here ever been involved in a support group at all? Anybody attend one for any reason? No, okay.
It's time.
It's a wonderful resource. And I mean, I could talk a lot about what we can talk about in the support groups. But I think one of the most significant things that happens when I run a support group is what happens between all of you, and what happens between sharing information, just maybe commiserating about an issue, or having something good to share about a medicine or some activity that you are involved in. Sometimes caregivers, you know, I always say I worry more sometimes about caregivers than the actual patient themselves, because they're doing a job caring for someone, and for them to come and share in a support group has been tremendously helpful for our caregivers as well. We talk a lot about advanced planning. Does anybody here have done their advanced planning? Advanced directives, yes, okay. Congratulations. I talk about it all my peers and nobody wants to talk to me. And I said, it's so important. I even tell my children who are in their early 20s, you have to start thinking about end of life care for all of us, not just people with Parkinson's, but for anyone. It's so important to have things in place. So that's something that I'm going to be talking about a little bit in the support group, just a chance to educate people and get them to talk about their diagnosis, or how to share their diagnosis, or if something's upsetting to them that day. I have everybody make a critical care document along with a file of life, which has been really helpful for anyone who has any kind of prognosis. And I'll get into that a little more detail throughout the groups. But I also am looking to see what people want to talk about. If you have anxiety, or you're suffering from depression, or how to start conversations with loved ones about your diagnosis, or if you don't want to share a diagnosis, conversations about what that might look like. So if anybody has any questions about the support groups, or what you would like to see happen, or anything at all, please feel free to come talk with me after. I'll be here, and would love to see you and your caregivers come to our first one at the end of May. I just had a question for everyone, because this is something that I did when I was a geriatric care manager. When you were first diagnosed, did anyone get a cognitive assessment from your neurologist? So what that means, they would ask you questions about date, time. You fill out forms about like a clock drawing or a memory test, more or less like a little bit of a memory test called the cognitive assessment. No, so that's not a common practice when you're first diagnosed. Okay, something that I do in my practice, and it's sometimes helpful for people to have a baseline of where they're at cognitively.
Does Parkinson's have an impact on memory?
It does, and it
Good.
definitely does. So there you go. That's right. Tell her the team. Yeah, it does, and I think it's helpful for everyone to sort of have a baseline of where they're at. It's just a number, but it's and it's not, you know, I'd always look at number and I look at big picture. It's not just the number, but it's always good to go back as a resource to see where you're at as a baseline when you were first diagnosed. with Parkinson's and see where you are cognitively. And there are different tests that we do, but it's good if you want to ask your physician to get one done, might be helpful too. But that's, again, I bring a lot of education to the groups. It's not just an opportunity for people to sort of vent. I think it's important to get education and support. And what's wonderful about the center is that we're a team. You have Kate and everyone who here is going to speak about what they do, but we all have a different role, but we really work in collaboration to help all of you. And my job is really to help psychologically if there's anything that you might need. And certainly if your caregiver needs some support, we're here for you as well. So again, my name is Amy Fader, and I'll be here if anybody has any questions for me about the support groups that are going to be starting, and they're going to be once a month. Thank you.
Did you want to talk about any of these?
Just about things that you can do, just to summarize.
The last slide. Yeah, you kind of did it all, but hit one more. Then you have your summers. There you go.
Things that you can do, join a support group, and support groups aren't for everybody. Not everybody likes to come and sit around and talk with other people that they've never met before. I'm a big proponent in them because I've seen how the good that has come out of the support groups. But if not that, talk to a mental health professional, seek out someone on your own or your supports, plan for end of life, attorneys, family meetings, have people in your life know your wishes. So important. And if you have advance directives, update them. I've had people who have advance directives, people with their healthcare proxy they haven't spoken to in 20 years. Those people are not going to be the ones making your decisions for you. So just a little bit something to think about. I know we're giving you a lot of information. It's a little overwhelming, but again, happy to be here if you have any questions in regard to this at all. Thank you all again for coming.
All right. On that mental health note, the first scale you guys did was about self-efficacy and feeling that you have control over this condition. So I'm glad you filled it out before we got going, because I hope that even just after this presentation, it's going to change. But if you get a chance, can you total up your score and write it? So you did this one. And it's a sliding scale on purpose, because sometimes you're like a 6, a 7. You can give yourself a 6.5 if it's in between, but total up your score and write it on this paper somewhere down by the self-efficacy, so that when we take a photo of it, we have your baseline, but then you can take, or you can just give us the paper, but it'd probably be easier if we put it there. Okay. Next up is Kathy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Peru, and I don't know if I've met either of you gentlemen before, but I'm a nurse with the ComfortWell team, which is our hospice team. And I wear many hats. And unlike Andrea, I did have a mother who passed from Parkinson's, so I hold it very close to me. And when the group was being formed, I thought this would give me a time to practice now more of what I wished I had known then. So exercise, we keep on talking about exercise being medicine. Well, medicine is medicine too. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the medications that are used in it. I'm going to touch on them super lightly because it's a lot of information. It's very, very confusing. So I think it's best that maybe that be saved for kind of a more specific time. So my job is to support people with a Parkinson's diagnosis and to help you manage your medications, really so that you get the best results that you can with the least side effects. And I do like to differentiate between, I'm going to jump to something else. There's a difference between side effects and adverse effects, and I'm going to get into that because side effects are the things that we need to kind of find a workaround, the things that we need to figure out how we can tolerate, because there's a benefit and a burden to all medication. We have to decide how that affects us. And that's going to be a unique decision for each person to make based on what their needs are. So the people who prescribe your medications are your PCP, it's your primary care physician, your neurologist, your movement disorder specialist, and there's no one mix of medications that is the right mix for a PD patient. It's unique to each patient, and unique to where they are in the process. Carbidopa, levodopa, that remains the gold standard. The one that we're most familiar with, and the brand name is Cinemat. Kate already explained the effects of dopamine in the brain, and I'm not going to get into going through all of that now, but we know that we need to help to supplement it. They're dopamine antagonists, and those act like dopamine in the brain, and those. So there's some of the generic names for it. The amantadine works by raising the amount of dopamine that your brain cell can use. There are anticholinergics, and they block they restore the balance between dopamine in your brain and acetylcholine. There are MAO inhibitors and COMAT inhibitors. The bottom line is that there are side effects to all of these drugs. Some of them are used more often than others based on our response to them, and some of them have really negative effects, like central nervous system depression, urinary retention, GI depression. Those things we all need to kind of treat separately to make sure that you function well with them. And those are things that cause us not to comply with our medication. And medication compliance is super important. The polypharmacy, the way that the drugs interact, is something that makes us not want to comply with our therapy. Another aspect that makes us not want to comply is when we're feeling well. And there's a huge temptation when everything is going good to think, do I really need these medications? And self-adjusting. If you feel like you need to self-adjust, that's when you reach out to your physician and say, look, this is where I'm at, because all too often we cut back when things are going well, and then we find that things aren't going so well. When things are not going so well and we're on all the other medications that we really think that we can be taking, there are alternatives. There are surgical options, and those are really reserved for those people who have exhausted all of their medication treatments. Deep brain stimulation, it's most effective for people who are experiencing disabling tremors, and the on-off spells, the wearing off of medication and medication-induced dyskinesias. We know that the longer that you're on the medications, the less effective that they become. Exercise is hugely helpful for improving the absorption of the medication and encouraging your body's utilization, as is hydration. And when we start to have bladder issues, people often restrict the amount of fluids that they're taking in, which is really, really counterproductive, because we got to keep our kidneys functioning well so that we utilize the medications properly. When the medications, in particular levodopa, is not being absorbed any longer because the whole peristalsis, all the action of the stomach is really slowed down, there are surgical interventions that place a catheter in that allows the medication to go directly into the intestine and bypass the stomach. Again, these are things that we try to exhaust our resources first and save the invasive treatments for when the less invasive things are ineffective. So exercise is medicine, medicine is medicine too. The goal is to integrate all of it. This isn't a one-stop shop. You've got a great team, people bringing lots and lots of different technologies in. And if we can incorporate the medicine into the exercise, that's how you're going to get your best result. These are some really basic ideas of just, we really all should know our medications, the generic name, what our doses are, because sometimes we find ourselves in a situation in the hospital somewhere, traveling, where we don't really have all the information we might need. Take your medications as they're prescribed. Don't be tempted to pull back when you're feeling well. Have a routine for taking your medications. Try to take them at the same time every day. Set an alarm if you need to. Keep a medication record. Sometimes people get panicked if they miss a dose. We don't need to panic on any of this. Take it if it was soon after. If not, most doctors, and this is something you always want to check, they recommend skipping a dose if you've gotten to the point of when the next dose is due versus doubling up on it. When you travel, especially with air travel these days, travel with extra medicine. Everybody's flights get delayed. People get stuck all over the place. The last thing you want to be doing is trying to fill prescriptions when you're out of state. Refill your prescriptions before you run out. Physical activity, I already touched on, that can help you to process and your medication. And my last little note that I had for you folks. Get out of order here. We touched on already. There are all kinds of changes that are going on in the scientific world, lots of new medications, but there's still some really basic things we need to stick to with what's tried and true right now, because they'll make a big difference in the disease and how it unfolds for you. When you get relief from your symptoms with the medicines, you find that combining the exercise and that sometimes you can avoid the more aggressive treatments like surgery. So our goal is to keep you here and have an early treatment so that you have the longest time with us and maintaining well-being. All right. I think that's it. You're welcome. And Garrett, who's not here.
You want to be Garrett or you want me to
Sure,
be
I'll
Garrett? Go for it.
Um,
We need to both have.
yeah, so Garrett, Garrett's our beloved chaplain. He always is in a bow tie. Hard to tell, maybe not in that photo, but he works with the hospice and palliative team, and he is our chaplain, and he talks to family members about anything that they are struggling with. He is an obtained
Yeah.
Oh, you skipped, okay. So spiritual health and well-being, how important it is to take care of your soul, and how the practice connects us to what's sacred, beautiful, and meaningful to all of us in our lives. And he talks a lot about, he's not terribly religious, but he comes with that background again and talks about why me, where is God, why is this happening to me? And he really is a wonderful coach and leader in regard to spiritual health. So he is going to be leading the groups along with me every month. So
And
here's his little bit of his
What you can do.
what you can do. If you go to services, certainly you can attend services, in person or online now. Traditions, meditations, and what do you find peace and joy with? How do you want your life to look like? And those are topics that Garrett will cover in the support groups as well, but he's also available to talk with if you need to be.
All right, I think it's Chris.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Greco, and I'm a physical therapist. I work both in the Rehabilitation and Wellness Center downstairs, and I also see patients in their homes. In addition to treating patients one-on-one, I do lead our LSVT Big for Life class on Tuesdays at 11. I have had a special interest in neurologic rehabilitation for my whole career. I graduated from physical therapy school in 1996. I started my career in inpatient rehab, working with clients who had had strokes, head injuries, other neurologic issues that brought them to the inpatient setting for a period of time. I also hold certifications in vestibular rehabilitation and fall prevention. And downstairs, I help people with things like exercise prescription, balance assessments, fall prevention, and patient and care partner education. So we have already heard a lot about why exercise is important. And I'm just going to talk about one particular form of exercise that all of our clinicians, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, are trained in. It's called the LSVT approach. And basically the reason that physical and occupational therapy implement LSVT big, and which is focused on gross and fine motor function, motor performance, functional mobility, things like that. And then our speech therapists implement LSVT loud, which is focused on improving voice quality and intelligibility. So as are all of our practitioners, physical therapists are an integral part of the care team for people with Parkinson's. We've heard about the fact that physical therapists assess things like strength, balance, flexibility, endurance, gait, or walking. And what makes us unique is that we're able to take all of that objective data that we find and we're able to relate it to your function. So it's not necessarily important exactly what strength grade you get with manual muscle testing. What's important is how does that impact you in terms of how you can walk, how you can perform activities of daily living, how you can do the things that you want to do. So physical therapists are basically focused on relating objective information to functional outcomes and putting together a plan of care for you that ties that all together and helps reach your personal goals. So a little bit of history. LSVT, the first aspect of LSVT that was developed was LSVT Loud. It stands for Lee Silverman Voice Treatment, and it was actually initiated by the family of a woman with Parkinson's disease named Lee Silverman, who found out about someone doing research on Parkinson's and neurologic interventions for other neurologic deficits, and basically said, we want to be able to understand our family member, our mom, Lee, better. What can you do for us? And this researcher, I think, was she at the University of Texas? I can't remember. It was a university-based researcher, but basically with the family, they worked together and they developed a treatment approach that became known as the Lee Silverman voice treatment. That was in the late 80s, and it was an exercise-based approach to improving speech intelligibility. Very soon after, it was realized that the very same principles that made that approach work in terms of improving voice could be applied to gross motor function. And fine motor function could be applied to other types of rehabilitation in the setting of a degenerative neurologic disorder. So therefore, LSVT Big was established. LSVT Big is an evidence-based program. There are over 100 studies that have taken place in the last 30 years that support the efficacy of this approach. And it's delivered in a very protocol-oriented fashion. LSVT Big and LSVT Loud are technically supposed to be delivered at a 4 times per week frequency over a 4-week period. So the individual is hit with a very intensive kind of introduction to these exercises, learns them in a way that I'm going to discuss, which is important to the approach. Now, as therapists, we do sometimes modify based on the individual patient's needs. Some people come in really with very little deficit and are able to learn this program very quickly and don't need to use up quite that much of their therapy benefit because they can just get it faster. Conversely, some people come in needing a little bit more help and will actually stay in the program longer. But the research is really based on this 4 times per week frequency for a month. And in addition to what you do in therapy, it is extremely important to continue doing the exercises every single day at home. So we've heard a lot about neuroplasticity being the ability of this is in my way. Well, we've learned a lot already about neuroplasticity, and that is basically the ability of the brain to grow and reorganize and create new synapses in response to certain levels of stimulation, and the ability of the brain to change and allow you to learn to do things better and more efficiently. LSVT is completely based on principles of neuroplasticity. And there are some key concepts that relate to that. First of all, LSVT has a main target. When individuals are doing LSVT exercises, the main target is amplitude. What we're teaching people to do is to move bigger. And the reason for that, particularly in individuals with Parkinson's, is that the natural course of the disease is to cause people to move smaller, which is called hypokinesia, and to move slower, which is called bradykinesia over time. So LSVT Big is very much emphasizes movement amplitude to combat that type of decline in the way that you move. The target is amplitude. The way that target is delivered is through high intensity and high effort. And those are two things that are extremely important in maximizing neuroplasticity and the ability of your brain to change. Change occurs in response to high repetitions of exercises, meaning 10, 20 reps of the exercise, and also high frequency, doing them 1 to 2 times every single day. The brain needs that repetition in order to learn and change and grow and improve the way that you move. The other thing is high effort. Andrea touched on the fact that when you're doing your aerobic exercise, you want to be working, eventually moving towards working at 60 to 80% of your heart rate for a prolonged period of time. These are the ways that the brain really learns to change, the way that we maximize our ability with neuroplasticity. So high intensity and high effort is how the program is delivered. And the goal ultimately is calibration, meaning that you want the way that you move when you exercise to be generalized so that it also becomes the way that you move when you're doing your daily functional activities. Being able to exercise in a big way is all well and good, but if everything kind of breaks down and when you try to actually walk across the kitchen and make a sandwich, suddenly you're struggling to do so, you haven't quite reached your goal yet. We want you to initially learn through exercise, but for your brain to become recalibrated and for you to actually begin to move better. It may always require a little bit of attention to what you're doing, but your brain can learn to produce those movements across daily activities, not just during exercise. And finally, another concept that is important when it comes to LSVT big is salience. Salience is when a task, an exercise, an activity is salient, it means that it's important to you. And when something is salient, you actually learn it better. When your brain becomes excited about something, like the golf example, and you enjoy doing something, that actually cements motor learning. It actually helps your brain to really integrate what you've learned and for your brain to recalibrate. So it's important to have goals that are specific to the individual and not specific to us only. We may make some suggestions because we know that they'll help you out, but ultimately the things that we're working towards need to be salient to your life, need to be things that you want to achieve and have personal motivation to achieve. The program, as I said, is very protocol oriented and structured. There are 7 maximal daily exercises that everyone doing the program does. 2 of them are seated, 5 of them are standing. For time's sake, I'm not going to get into details, but those exercises, as Andrea alluded to, when you choose a program that's specific to Parkinson's, you're actually checking off a lot of the boxes because they were meant for people who are predicted to experience certain types of deficits. So the 7 daily maximal exercises incorporate a lot of weight shifting, a lot of stepping, a lot of rotational movements. They incorporate counting out loud, moving arms and legs together at the same time. So you're checking off a lot of boxes. You're working on balance, you're working on coordination, you're doing some cognitive dual tasking, coordinating multiple limbs at the same time. The rotational components, particularly the big reaches, the big overhead reaches, you're maintaining flexibility in that way. So LSVT checks off a lot of boxes. If you really get up to a high number of reps and you do it over a prolonged period of time, you can check off some of that aerobic training. If you add weights as you're able, you can check off some of that strength training. So it's a very, very good program and a very well supported program for people with Parkinson's disease. So there's the 7 maximal daily exercises. There are 3 to 5 functional component tasks that everyone does. Sit to stand is one for everybody because that's so important in terms of functional strength, in terms of teaching your body to not kind of retropulse or fall backwards back into the chair, which is something that can happen with Parkinson's. You need to train yourself away from that. So sit to stand is a functional component task for everyone in the program. And then along with the client, we choose some others to work on that help you. They're kind of like building blocks of bigger things. One hierarchy task is typically included. We typically ask, what is something that you're struggling with that you really want to do? I had one client who wanted to be able to safely feed his pet, which actually incorporates a lot of things. You need to be able to walk and carry an item at the same time. You need to be able to get down to the ground to place the food in the bowl. You need to do a lot of things. So that would be like a hierarchy task. And maybe we would look at a few components of that that are difficult and make those functional component tasks, smaller pieces to work on. And last is walking. Walking is huge with Parkinson's. We want to maintain long strides. We want to maintain, basically the way to summarize it is we just call it big walking. Everything is amplitude based. We want big steps, long strides, big posture, meaning upright, big arms, meaning you're getting that swinging, that counter rotation, which is important for balance and flexibility. In addition to these things, we also include strategies to overcome certain difficulties that may occur, strategies to overcome things like freezing, festination, OT touches on fine motor stuff. So there's a lot of different things that can be rolled into this to create the best individual program for each client. So what you can do now, if you're not in therapy right now, if you haven't had any yet, first just take notice of how you're moving. And you want to take control of that. You don't necessarily need to be told by a professional to focus on things like standing up straight, walking big, just with that arm swing, those long strides. If you're noticing that your foot's catching a little when you're walking, tell yourself to pick it up. If you notice that your steps are short and it's taking you twice as many steps to get from point A to point B, tell yourself to take longer steps. Basically, just walk and move big. You can practice sit to stands just for functional strength and balance. Participate in exercise and activities that you enjoy on a daily basis, which I won't say too much about because Andrea already summarized all of those recommendations. If you feel like you're struggling, or not really, even if you're not struggling and you just want to get on a really good program to maintain that super high level of function that you're at, pursue a physical therapy evaluation to identify any deficits. Maybe there aren't many, but you can also just learn that exercise program, learn that LSVT big program, or perhaps if that's not right for you for some reason, learn some power moves or something else, but just get yourself on a really good Parkinson's specific exercise program that you can do every day to meet that 150 minutes per week goal, which is neuroprotective, which keeps you motivated and in shape and moving well. And just lastly, just keep in mind that it's never too early to get started. You don't have to be having deficits to really get proactive. And it's also never too late. You can always improve. You can always learn modifications, ways to improve. So with that, I am going to pass this off to, are you taking over, Kate?
We're going to do walking speed, as you can see on your sheet here. This graph is there for you. But for the sake of time, let's keep going. And then on your way out, we will measure your walk. Maybe it'll be quick because you can't wait to get out of here, right? Okay, so stay tuned for that. And there will be the norms for you and we'll help fill out your form. How's everybody doing? You need to get up and stretch? Everybody's okay? Good. We got another, Megan's coming to talk about sleep. Your slides are there.
They're here. I'm here. I'm Megan Labor. I'm a physical therapist assistant. I work downstairs in the Rehabilitation and Wellness Center. I am certified in LSVT Big, and I am here to assist in exercise prescription and instruction. I'm currently a personal caregiver to my grandmother who has Parkinson's. She was diagnosed in 2011. Her disease is pretty progressed at this point, so my mother and I are her full-time caregivers. And I will be presenting to you today about sleep hygiene and care partner education. So what do physical therapist assistants do? We know what physical therapists do, but a physical therapist assistant's role in specifically Parkinson's disease is to implement patient care, obtain data, collaborate with the physical therapist. We apply PT interventions and treat within the PT plan of care. We assist in assessment of strength, balance, flexibility, gait, and overall function. So sleep hygiene. My family likes to tell me I'm a really good sleeper. This is my topic. It is a very big non-motor symptom of Parkinson's disease. So 60% of Parkinson's patients or people with Parkinson's have sleep disorders. Sleep is very important. We actually spend a third of our life sleeping, which is a little depressing. Habits that promote quality of sleep that are essential are, setting a schedule, limiting naps during the day, spend time in natural light during the day, exercise, especially timing of exercise. You don't want to exercise right before you go to bed, but a little bit before. You want to avoid caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, regulate your bedroom temperature, and try to get into bed only when you're ready to sleep. It's for sleeping. So stages of sleep. we have REM cycle and we have non-REM cycles of sleep. So REM is rapid eye movement. And this is when your heart rate and respiratory rate are increased because you are dreaming. This is the length of your REM cycle gets larger throughout how many cycles you have at night. And then your non-REM sleep is divided into stages 1, 2, and 3. Stage 1 is the transition between wakefulness and sleep. You're pretty in the light sleep, you're still aware of sounds, you're easy to wake. Stage 2, your heart rate and your body temp and muscle activity decrease. And then stage 3, you're in your deep sleep stage. Now, this is where most of our benefits occur. So, we are here. Sleep is essential for energy restoration, development of learning and clearing waste products from the brain, which is essentially extremely important for people with Parkinson's because we have more abnormal proteins within your brain that we need to clear. So neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's, it's vital to have that part of your sleep. And then circadian rhythms is your body clock. This responds to primarily light and darkness. We get tired as it gets darker. During the winter, we get tired earlier. And it affects almost all other processes in our body. So vitals, hormones, melatonin, this is like our body clock. So 80% of people with Parkinson's disease report poor sleep because of insomnia, REM sleep behavior disorder, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, and excessive daytime sleepiness are the bigger examples. So insomnia is your inability to sleep, whether it's you can't fall asleep, can't stay asleep, or you can't really wake up in the morning, or and it's a lot, 1/3 of people with Parkinson's have common insomnia. And a lot of the times it's they wake up during sleep. It could be acute, it could be chronic, and light therapy has benefits for treatment specifically for people with Parkinson's to address insomnia. REM sleep behavior disorder involves abnormal or unusual movements and behaviors, emotions during or sometimes dreaming when you're falling asleep, sleeping, or during waking up. This is when we lose our muscle, that you have a loss of muscle paralysis. So you actually are moving when you shouldn't be moving. Your brain should be telling your muscles to turn off, and your brain is telling your muscles to turn on. It's not letting them relax. And that's when you act out during your sleep. Usually some people have them more in nightmares. 50 to 60% of people have them more during nightmares. And then sleep apnea is a breathing, it's when breathing is repetitively interrupted during sleep because of either partial or complete collapse of the airway, which is obstructive, which is more common of a sleep apnea diagnosis. And then central is usually a problem with neurons that control breathing during sleep. Restless leg syndrome is unpleasant sensations in your legs resulting in the urge to move them, and it relieves temporarily, but this makes it hard to fall asleep and stay asleep. And then excessive daytime sleepiness, 50% of people with Parkinson's experience this at some point of the disease process. And it could be because of medication side effects. It could be because of poor sleeping patterns, medical or mental health disorders, or changes in the brain can all lead to excessive daytime sleepiness. So what can you do? Try to strive for 8 hours a night to sleep. Try to not have screens in your bedroom, phones, iPads, TVs. Try to make the bed for just sleeping. Avoid caffeine in the afternoon. Limit alcohol intake, keep your bedroom a cool temperature, don't exercise too close to bedtime, but it is important to exercise for sleep and in general. You want to limit liquids after 8 p.m. to decrease trips to the bathroom. Consistency is king, so make it a schedule. And then try to keep your room pretty dark at night, lots of light in the AM, open the shades, get some light in. So what can you do now? If you are having issues sleeping and you're experiencing some of these side effects, meet with a healthcare provider, get a sleep study if you think you're having sleep apnea issues, get treatment, maybe ask your healthcare provider about light therapy with insomnia, participate in research. We're always learning more. Discuss those medications and side effects of current medications with your healthcare providers or with our team members like Kathy. Meet with myself. I'm more than happy to talk with you about this. I have some little scales that you can fill out, bring with you to your doctor's appointments and say, look, these are the areas that I'm having trouble in. Maybe they can talk to you about possible medications or different interventions like light therapy. And then care partners. Is anybody here a care partner or a caregiver to a person with Parkinson's? Nice. So I'm also a care partner. And we like to use the word care partner because it gives more of a independence to the person with the disease. So we are here to help you. We are not here to decide everything for you. You are the person with Parkinson's. So we're part of your team. And as the disease progresses, it sometimes moves into the caregiving role where we have to do more physically and emotionally and to be caregiving for you. And it's vital. If you need you need a team. Even just going to an appointment with you, not that they have to talk for you, but it's easier for someone to sit in and listen directly from the healthcare provider than having them try to call up later and them say, oh, you're not signed on the HIPAA release. We can't give you information. So it's just easier to get it all in at once. But they have needs too. So 7 big needs of people caring for others are PD education. We need to, knowledge is power. We need to know what the person with Parkinson's is dealing with and what could come. Everybody's different, so they need to know more info, the better. Time management, we need to prioritize, we need to delegate, we need to take breaks. Self-care, we need to build in quality time for yourself, still do your exercise, your activities, get rest and set limits and maintain a sense, of a schedule, keep your sense of humor, lighten up the mood with your your family, and you want a support team, you want to share the care. If you're not doing it alone, you need people to support you too. So your relationship with the person with Parkinson's is not just because of Parkinson's. Likely you were their loved one in a different aspect before you were caring with them or for them. So you want to keep open communication and share time together separate from caregiving tasks. You want to match their expectation of your loved ones and abilities and actions. So sometimes we have a higher expectation that they can do something or they can't do something when they can, and they should be doing it independently if they can. We want to define and clarify issues within the family. Families get messy, so we want to develop steps for carrying out plans, take advantage of assistance and explore resources in the community, legal documents, reach out to us at the Parkinson Center. We're here to help you. So early in the disease, it's important to organize medical information for your loved one, continue to communicate with them, encourage their exercise and activities. Apathy is huge, so their motivation might be lower, and you are there to build them back up. Simple cues, demonstration. Don't get frustrated if they're not getting the cueing that you're giving, you're responding to the cueing that you're giving them. Try something else, try demonstrating, try verbalizing it in a simple task. Know that non-motor symptoms are a huge part of the disease process, and to know what they are is important, which comes with the education. Positive feedback and encouragement. It's really tough to be separated from your mind and your body being separate. So just giving them positive feedback and encouragement is important. But you can't care for them unless you care for yourself. So care for you, care for your mental health. And then later in the disease process, when you transition to more of a caregiver, that's when you're going to have to work more on transfers and know how to instruct with equipment and use the equipment, and how to prevent falls even more. So this is when PTs, OTs, and where the Parkinson Center is here to educate you. So if you need help on using how to get people up off the ground, how to transfer them into the car correctly, what cues can I give to make it more smooth? That's what we're here to help you with. So this is just a self-assessment that I put in here. And this is part of it. It couldn't all fit on one slide. So this is a good self-assessment to do when you get the link to the PowerPoint, and you add these scores with the ones that when you answer these, and then you add up your total score, and your total score will tell you, are you doing a good job? Do you have room for improvement? Should you go talk to someone? Because if you're at high risk for your personal health problems, you're not going to be able to effectively take for somebody else. So what can you do now? You want to examine your areas of struggle by filling out that form. Ask for help. People are there to help you. You do not have to do this alone. Talk directly to one of us, attend appointments with the person with Parkinson's disease, and you can meet one-on-one with myself, go to support groups, go meet one-on-one with Amy, Kathy, any of us. We are here for you. And that's all. You're sure.
Jane. Okay. Thank you, guys. Now we know how long this takes. I think everyone has so much to share.
What do you do? Hit the arrow when I want to change the. Hi, Charlie. Okay, the space bar. Okay, I have to be quick because I have a patient waiting, but I'm Sarah Triano. I'm the occupational therapist here at Outpatient. I've worked in hospitals, subacute, outpatient, home care with people with Parkinson's in all different stages. So what is OT? We can read. So I'm going to be teaching the boxing classes with Andrea. I'm trying to get the important stuff in here. Expert topics would be tremor management, fine and gross motor coordination, strengthening and stretching, ADL and IADL management, as well as handwriting, but it's not limited to that. So occupational therapy is not here to help you with a job. Everybody says that when they walk in, but it's more to find those things that are meaningful to you, that you need to do, that you want to do, and that, that creates quality of life for you. So how do we go about doing that? We create what we call an occupational profile with each patient. So it's similar to PT, right? Because we want to make the plan individualized to you. So we do an evaluation. We talk about your life. What do you need to do on a daily basis? What do you like to do? What are your leisure activities? It's not just bathing and grooming and brushing your teeth and taking a shower. Are that aspects to it? Definitely. Do we want to make sure you're independent with that? Absolutely. Occupational therapy, the role of it, so goes from early, mid, and late stages. Let me change this. We, in the early stages, we really look at self-management, maintaining participation, again, in the tasks that you need to do, but also the tasks that you want to do and ensure your quality of life. Performance enhancement. So performing the task the best and most efficient based on your status, so your individual status. Mid stages, we may look at adapting things and compensation. So are there tasks that are hard that now you don't do anymore? Well, maybe it doesn't mean you can't do them, but might you do them, and could they look a little bit different and you still get quality from that? So that's what we look to ensure. Environmental, I'm trying to talk too fast. Environmental modifications, preserve independence and engagement is huge. In the later stages, and not to say that some of the early and mid stages won't kind of trickle down to late stages, the stuff we work on, but again, environmental modifications, making you safe in your environment, making sure that your environment is set up so that you're independent to stay where you want to stay, whether it's home or your apartment, working, different things. So safety and comfort's important. Caregiver partner training, so they're not only there to support you, to make sure they're carrying over things the way that are individualized to you and your needs, so that someone's not screaming at you 20 times a day to stand up straight, but maybe different cues work differently for different people. And then meaningful engagement. Okay. So some of the more common symptoms that we'll see and we work on in occupational therapy is rigidity and tremor. So kind of that tightness, sometimes that tremor you get, and people say, well, I'm embarrassed to go out to eat because I tremor and I can't cut my own food, or you can't get that fork to the mouth, or you're having a drink, writing, if you're still working, typing. Everybody uses an iPhone now. So being able to use your phone to talk to your family. Difficulty with ADLs, so buttoning, right? Getting dressed, tying your pants if you have to, getting your bra on if you have to, seeing if there was any women in here. Increased time for task completion, and then decreased independence and occupational deprivation. Let's see, oh, that's wrong space bar. All right, so there's ADL and ADL considerations. So that's fine motor upper arm impairment. So you look at how decreased coordination may impact your ability to carry these out. Again, that bradykinesia, which is those slow movements, tremor gets in the way, reduced hand strength and upper extremity strength, not just hand strength. And then that rigidity. How does decreased functional balance and the freezing of your gait or the fascination? So again, this is where OT and PT get together and collaborate and talk a lot. So the cues they're using for you, I'm going to carry over in OT to make sure you can walk to the bathroom, you can get in and out of the shower. And again, your environmental setup. Oh, I was quick. Okay, so what you can do now. So you can always at any time get an individualized evaluation by an OT if you feel it's warranted. But first start by assessing yourself. If you feel like my writing looks different, well, assess it, right? You know, copy your name 10 times. Does it start big and end small? Practice writing bigger. Make it fun. So work on your coordination by playing card games, sorting cards, writing a letter or to a loved one on the computer, or even just, we don't do it anymore, but actually writing, using puzzles, increasing your hand strength. So there's 1,000 things you could use out there that you probably have in your house, but you can look at Theraputty, digi-squeeze balls, hand grippers, functional things like opening, closing a container in your house already. And the individualized evaluation. So that's again where we set it up. If we feel it's warranted and you need that in-clinic help, that one-to-one, we see you usually twice a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. And it's tailored to you. Home recommendations. You don't necessarily have to be getting therapy to get a home recommendation, right? It can't start early enough. Or is there times when you're falling or is transferring in and out of the bathroom, out of the tub? Is that harder? Is there a way we can make it easier? And then participating in those group exercise classes that you have trained professionals to help you, and answer questions if you need. I don't know if I missed anything. That was super fast. My patient will appreciate that. But if you have any questions or anything, there's email, there's phone. So just because I have to leave now doesn't mean you can't get a hold of me. Okay. Sorry. I'm so good.
We're almost there, guys.
2 more.
Okay, hi, everybody. I'm Susan. I'm the speech therapist. So I work downstairs in the outpatient office, and I also see people in the home. I've been a speech therapist for over 12 years now, and I have experience working with a lot of neurological conditions. I work with adults only, and some expert topics are speech, voice, language, cognition, and swallowing. So a speech therapist does a lot more than just speech. Even doctors don't know that all the time, but we do evaluate and treat speech conditions, voice conditions, swallowing issues, cognition, language. We do work with you to determine a plan that is meaningful to you, depending on what issues you're coming to us for. So why you're here now about Parkinson's, right? How does Parkinson's affect your speech? So there are motor speech disorders known as dysarthria, and there are several different types of dysarthria. The one that we find is most common in people with Parkinson's is hypokinetic dysarthria, and it's characterized by a quieter or a weaker voice, a hoarse voice, Imprecise articulation, so the tongue not moving as fast, the lips not moving as fast, all of those articulators just not moving as quickly, just like the rest of your body. And that leads us to hear a slurred quality to your speech, or sounds that will run together, a faster sounding speech because you're trying to push everything out before you run out of air. So when you come to us, if you have a full evaluation, we take a thorough case history and we figure out when is your speech affected the most, what is most affected about your speech. Maybe it's not actually the loudness of your speech. Maybe it's just the hoarseness. Maybe it's just the speed. Maybe it's only the loudness and it's very intelligible. We'll have to kind of figure out what really do you need, but some just very basic common sense strategies are to, well, one, think and talk louder. Right. So just like everyone said before, we're trying to recalibrate the brain. We're trying to teach the brain a new way of doing things. If we think loud, right, a very basic instruction, we will talk louder. Then that will slow us down. That will lead to more precise articulation. So with just that one thought process, we've now accomplished several goals. Also very basic. Make sure the person's right next to you when you're talking to them. Make sure you guys are face to face. You know, I hear a lot of complaints that we're not hearing each other. Everyone has a hearing loss. They need hearing aids, right? But meanwhile, people are talking to each other with the water running in the background, with the TV on. They're saying a whole sentence and then the person's in the other room still and they have to repeat it, right? And they lose all that energy and they don't feel like repeating the whole thing. So get the attention of the person you want to talk with. Look right at them, talk in a quiet location, and plan conversations for when you have more energy. If you do those things and you're still having a problem, maybe you do really need speech therapy. So you can come to us. You can also go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. Make sure there's no other reason aside from Parkinson's that you're having an issue with your voice and your speech. I am LSVT Loud certified. Chris did a great job talking about the whole program, so I'm not going to go into all of that again, but it is the gold standard for treating voice in Parkinson's. It really focuses on that loudness to then improve those other subsystems of speech, the articulation, the intonation, the prosody. We also try to incorporate, how can you move your face more? How can you have more expression so that you aren't just feeling very, very flat all the time. These changes will have neurological changes in your brain. They will also have some secondary changes, which will help your swallowing too. That kind of leads us into that next topic, which if you haven't already experienced any issues with your swallowing with Parkinson's, that's great. I hope that I never have to see you for that, but a lot of people do develop difficulty with their swallowing. There's a lot that can go wrong when we swallow. It's a very precise set of events that have to happen because the airway and the esophagus are right next to each other. If God didn't make it like that, I probably wouldn't have a job. But we want to make sure that you are not, we want to prevent as much of the swallowing issues that we can by getting a kind of a head start and educating you on what could go wrong. What are some things to pay attention to? A lot of times I hear much later in treatment, yeah, they are coughing a lot when they're eating. I just kind of thought that was normal, so it's really important to talk to your primary care doctor and to your speech therapist if you're seeing one about the things that you're noticing. Some things to look out for are choking or coughing or a lot of throat clearing when you're eating or drinking. Voice sounding really wet or gurgly, like you have a frog stuck in it. Taking a lot of swallows, a long time to eat the meal, maybe some pocketing of food in your cheeks as you're eating, having some drooling or food or water leaking out of your mouth. And of course, if you are going to the hospital and having pneumonia is being diagnosed, you definitely should be involved with a speech pathologist. Okay, so some very basic general strategies, safe swallow strategies, we call them. Things to do right now if you're noticing some issues, or maybe you can even tell some people if you know, make sure that you're not eating with distractions, that you're focusing on eating one small sip at a time, one small bite at a time. Chew your food well. Try not to talk while you're eating. Everything we've been hearing since we were little. For each bite or sip that you take, swallowing 2 times actually really helps get rid of a lot of residue that could be lingering in the back of your throat that's there because of weakness, because of the Parkinson's. If you have to use a straw because of a lot of tremors, make sure you're taking a small little sip with the straw. That puts a lot of liquid in your mouth very quickly, puts it far back in your mouth. You have to then hold on to that liquid while you then tell your brain to swallow. That's a lot of stuff that has to happen. People usually end up coughing when they're drinking from a straw. If you're having difficulty with your pills, don't toss them all back 5 or 6 in a row. Try to take them one at a time. Try to put them into applesauce or some type of yogurt or puree item that you might be having. It makes it easier to swallow them. And then if you're doing these things and you're still having some issues, you really should be speaking to a healthcare provider about that. There are some other tests that we can do. So one, you can come and see me. We can do what we call a clinical evaluation of swallowing. That is something just observing you while you're eating, talking thoroughly about what's been going on, and then determining if a more thorough objective test is needed. Something like a modified barium swallow or a FEES study, which is a fiber optic endoscopic evaluation, a little camera that goes through your nose and watches you while you're eating. We also do a lot of education for strategies and exercises. So just because you're having issues with your swallowing doesn't mean that's the way it has to be the rest of your life with Parkinson's. You could be eligible to do exercises for this and improve that swallow function. Okay, so this got brought up a little bit before. I'm really glad that you had that great question. And then Amy talked a little bit about cognition and Parkinson's. So yes, there are a lot of cognitive changes. There's neurochemical signal changes. There's changes with the proteins that are blocking things in your brain that are other conditions like strokes and Alzheimer's that could be causing cognitive changes with Parkinson's. About 20 to 50% of people with Parkinson's will have some form of mild cognitive impairment. Now, mild means that it might not really affect your day-to-day life. You can still go about, your work, your household tasks. When it does start to affect you and you are forgetting medications, forgetting appointments, unable to drive, things like that, it does become more serious and it may be diagnosed more as a dementia. There is a scale, and a lot of times people with mild cognitive impairment don't seek out treatment, and they really should be, because there's a lot of reversal that can happen. There's a lot of good that you can do when you're in those early stages. So we really want to get you early. Okay, before it becomes too significant of a change for you. So what is your cognition? Well, cognition lets us do anything. It's, to get through the day. When you think about anything you're doing, that's all using your cognition. When you're having difficulty with cognition, you might notice slower thinking, more difficulty with processing the information that's coming in, difficulty focusing your attention. Difficulty with multitasking. Now, this is also age appropriate. So we multitask less as we get older. But then again, there's that, is this normal for my age, or is this something different? You might notice a decline in your working memory. So that's like your, okay, I hear an appointment that I was just given on the telephone. Now I'm gonna hold that in my memory for about 30 seconds while I walk in the kitchen and write it on my calendar. If by the time you get to that calendar, you've forgotten it, you have a deficit in your working memory. Short-term memory is things that are like day-to-day. I remembered that I spoke to so-and-so before and I passed on that message, so I don't have to tell them again tomorrow or email them later. Longer-term memory is generally not as affected with these acute or degenerative diseases because they're stored in so many different places in the brain. Difficulties with executive function. So executive function is where you
at work and you remember, I have to pick up bread when I'm on my way home later from the store, and you're driving home and you're kind of listening to music and thinking other things, and you still remember to pull into the shopping center and get that bread, right? We're planning ahead, you're multitasking, focusing on different things in order to execute the things that you need to do in your day. We've also noticed difficulties with visual spatial functioning, navigating in a new environment, motor planning. That's why some of those tests like that clock drawing test can give us some information about how you are motor planning and figuring out things in your environment. Language also comes into this, where we have difficulties finding the words that you want, losing the train of thought while speaking, which will in turn lead to some social isolation and avoidance behaviors, which will then kind of snowball into further cognitive decline. So what can you do now about this? Well, you need to stimulate your brain, right? Exercise, exercise, exercise for your body, but also your brain. Have conversations with people, reach out to friends and family, challenge yourself, pick up a new hobby, pick up a crossword puzzle if you like doing them. Make sure these things are important and meaningful to you. Go through picture albums, start conversations, talk about memories, exercise, join a group, right? I think someone mentioned before about accountability. If you know you have to get there at a certain time, you've paid for something, or you know somebody else is waiting on you, you are much more likely to go to that group. You can also come to see us. We work on this cognitive linguistic function. We assess, we develop a treatment program that's meaningful to you. What do you want to work on? What do you want to get better at remembering? All right, let's focus on strategies for that. Also, what kind of activities you could be doing to help stimulate your brain. Okay, so look forward to working with everybody. And Chair.
All right, I'm gonna be really, really fast, and I want us to stand and I want us to move because I need to move. I'm tired. I've been sitting for 2 hours, just like everyone else. So stand if you can, if you want to, if you're comfortable. And I'm gonna forget my slides because the music is what's important. I'm a music therapist. I went to Berkeley College of Music and I was trained out the wazoo about music and neuroscience in the brain. And if you keep an eye on RVNA Health's calendar, you see that I'm doing the library circuit. I'm sorry, I'm here. I'm like too short for the camera anyway. I'm just, that is pretty good. I'm doing talks for RVNA Health about music and the brain. And so I'm just gonna add movement to that. So music and the brain and movement. What else I have in here? That's Tammy, she's one of my coworkers. She'll also be taking part in this group as well. Okay, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, okay, let this, okay. It's research based. I could give you tons and tons and tons and tons of articles about the research done in Parkinson's. We've taken on a lot of info today. So I'm gonna, when you hear the word hey, your hands go up. In the meantime, dance. That's it. You just listen for the word hey. You're dancing. I can't dance. Oh, I didn't matter. Hey. Sorry, I'm gonna pull louder.
Oh, yeah. There, hey.
My brain, the music. I'm not a good dancer. So sorry, that's when I do want to be dancing. Cheerleading. I'll dance. You can just scratch. You don't have to dance.
I'll dance.
All right, we're dancing. See, this is for the studies. I can talk while we're listening to music. Hey. How's your dopamine doing now? Getting there? Yep, it is. While we're dancing, these are things you can do now. You can sing. You can sing really fast, even if it's in the car. Sing it. You don't have to put it on. You can dance. Andrew's dances. This is the music that elevates instant, oh, got a good head. Instant dopamine shot. That elevates- Playing an instrument. You don't even know how to, you need to know how to play the instrument to play it. Playing on piano, strum a guitar, who cares? Participate in a drum circle. I should do some drum circles here. And, oh yeah, I'm missing the hay, so don't keep talking. And I think certainly talk to your loved ones about your musical practice. When I think that they're unable themselves, their family members will tell me, oh, dad loves Frank Sinatra. Mom loves myself in such a music. So let your family know what like sorry noms are. So there we go. That's it. Yeah, I'm gonna edit it out.
Okay. Okay. Now we know to cover all this information is going to take like 2.5 hours. So we will plan better next time. And I think we probably have to feed you. But the idea is, you know, come back next year and things will be a little bit different. We'll measure the baselines again. You two were the only ones not here last week. So I'm just going to give you a flyer about our center. You've pretty much heard we are here for you. We can, every idea, every topic that needs to be addressed, the team is here, or you now have strategies to start doing it yourself or share with your patients and clients. And thank you very much. Our next thing is the support group, but there are going to be a couple other events in May. We just haven't picked dates, and you'll get an email. What? Yes, I'm so sorry. May 17th, Dr. Bronwich is going to talk about more focusing on the diagnosis and medications and the most recent treatments in Parkinson's disease. And I think the whole point of this was it's a lot. It's overwhelming. We get it. But if you hear it once a little bit now, it's going to sink in better the second time, where you go, oh, I heard about that med, or I heard about this symptom. And it's just not going to be so scary, like another new thing, because you've already heard it and been exposed to it. So, and when those things happen, please contact us if you have questions, and we're here to help you. So thank you very, very much for coming. You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, on our way out, we'll do that. We just got to write it down.
That was incredibly important.
Oh, good.
I want to know where you ski.
Okay.
Oh, come on. I go to Wyndham.
Oh, you were in New York. You're in New York. I'm only kidding.
No,
Wait, how many days did you get in?
60.
How many?
60.
60?
Yes. What can I tell you? I got an Epic Pass this year, so I'm gonna.
Good for
I'll
you.
get you there. I'll
Okay.
get you there.
No, I think the thing that, yes, because this is a whole new.
Okay.
I just learned about it about 2.5 months ago. So I went to the, no. I heard about you guys. How did I hear about you guys? Oh, we had the fellow come and speak to us at the Ridgefield Men's Club.
Ryan.
Right, but he gave out the floor. And then it was like an afterthought. He mentioned at the end of his talk about, and is it your picture on that?
Yes, I have one for
This one
you.
right here.
I'm giving it to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I have it at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I have the
Oh,
booklet.
the
The booklet, right.
the
And he
newsletter.
said something about Parkinson's, so I said,
The
so
newsletter.
it was too, in fact, it was too late to do the first thing, because I learned about it. I looked at it the next day.
That was
I
last
said, right,
Thursday.
right, and then I just said, oh no, I gotta go do. See, so what was the initials? LUV?
LSVT.
Yeah, I'm doing that
Oh, where are you doing that?
at home.
Oh, So-
No, see, what happened is I went to so when I started having. And my tongue, and I noticed when I shaved this, like.
yeah.
Now, and so I went to Dr. Aguadi. I always say Aguadi, Dr. Guadi.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I went to him up in Danbury.
okay.
So he sent me to the physical therapy in Danbury Hospital.
Okay.
And the guy there is trained in
LSVT.
Right, the Parkinson stuff.
Okay.
So he gave me, so I had several
Did you
sessions.
do the whole program?
I do the 7
You
exercises.
do the 7 daily activities.
Right, and now I realize I should be doing twice a day. He told me that, but I've been doing them once a day. So now I'm gonna do it twice a day. They're easy to do, but I've learned to get more expressive with them. That's what,
That's what you do, like have a checkup on. them.
right, see, I haven't, in the beginning, I wasn't as expressive.
Right, yeah.
You know, you gotta do,
Yeah.
so what I'm trying to understand is I have, my symptoms are very minimal. Okay, I exercise, I go to exercise, try to go twice or 3 times a week. I want to do more walking.
Where at the rec center?
No, I go to Club 24.
Oh, okay.
And what else do I do? I'm active around the house.
See the place, how it was, what it was.
My daughter thinks I'm not getting enough walking in. She walks every day. So I don't know when do I use you guys?
You can use us whenever. I mean, if you don't want to continue up in the Danbury, you could come. So have you seen our outpatient clinic downstairs? So I can give you a tour. You have a tremendous, rehab center down there, and you can have, have a show.
But when do I know I need it? I mean, I guess, see, I've got.
Yeah.
But, and the doctor hasn't told me for sure that I have Parkinson's. His comment to me the first time was, it's Parkinson's like. So I'm going to see him in another couple of weeks.
Diagnosis of exclusion.
Right. So I see all the stuff that you guys have. I mean, and I saw that other piece of the what did it? LSVT, but then there were, after the 7 exercises, there were 2 or 3 other lines
Yeah.
that I'm not familiar with.
Right, so that's like the full program. And then we also have the MSBT wellness class. Which if you want to participate in, you can do that, and that's twice a week here with Chris. And she has a group of I think this gentleman's in it, where they come in and they do the lesson, and then she's there to help modify it if you're doing it correctly. So that might be one way to.
So I should get more familiar with what's available on the website?
Yeah, you can do that. So yes, and if you go to our website, there's a Parkinson Center. If you go there, you'll see Parkinson Center. You can click on this information and become click on the link, and then you'll start to get all the emails and start to see every things comes out. In the summer, we're hoping to achieve what's called a Tuesday. Where so they diagnose so it's like everything you need to know. It's an 8-week intensive, like they.
So even if we had a week vacation that I couldn't make it still would be an appropriate.
It still would be. Then some of the stuff you can get online to make up for and stuff like that.
See, that to me, that sounds like something, because that puts me involved with a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes.
It's for someone who's newly diagnosed.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's gonna happen in the summer.
It's gonna be in June, yeah, we're gonna start in July. Yes, yeah, we're getting things like going here.
Okay, because we have 1 week of vacation, the 3rd week of July, so if I miss that, I just.
Yeah, so like go here, so this kind of tells you a little bit about what our Parkinson's Center is. Just established, so in here, more information, QR code, we can learn about things, and get on our. All the email blast, do all that. You may want to participate, come in. We're assessed by one of these guys, and then.
I don't see. By going to the board, I did, that was directed and scripted from the doctor to do that.
Yeah, so that you. We have a good issue, but what your church.
Yeah, well, I had the managed.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
And then when we do that screen, it felt like you needed additional. We would send us the doctors and signs off. And we would change the script. I would, this is really a good place to start. I think it's a good. Perfect opportunity for you.
I guess do the boot camp.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you. This is stuff that.
Yes, thank you. I created the two other generations. so.
I found this now.
Where-
So he goes, well.
No, I think they don't mention it.
Yeah, so he. So he goes to stay back.
Oh, yeah.
But they have the same amount of loss of that.
Other things.
Like smaller than Mohawk?
Yeah, it's kind of like.
Okay.
It's like, like this is a shop that's adults to children, you know.
I used to be a skate shop.
Yeah. so, and he
Or-
wants you- he's
Yeah.
trying to be good.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It really creates a more love of the sport. It's hard to. Thank you. Yeah, why not? Let me get my stuff together.
Yeah.
Save the recording.
Yeah. So you had all this, yeah,
Yeah, stop.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. Yeah, we'll have to.
And
do
I
some
mean,
of-
they were the only two that weren't there last week.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
okay.
um,
And even on the Zoom,